Good morning, my renegades. Welcome back to Rogue Radio. And if you don't know my name already, don't know what to tell you.
It's Sarah Jane.
Thank you for the new listeners. I am very happy that you guys have decided to drop into the trenches and listen. And welcome to the Renegade family. Today will be another Rogue News segment. I know it's been a while since I dropped anything. I just wanted to drop something because there is some stuff that I need to be talking about. Usually after I make a Rogue News segment, something else happens that I have to cover. And so we're going to do that. And don't worry, I know that some of you want the pedophiles and renegade stories to be fired back up again. Don't worry about that. I do have some material for those soon. So, be patient. Love you. Let's get into this. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, feel free to contact me. The links will be down in the description of this Anchor episode. Thank you very much. I am re-uploading my episodes on YouTube, so if you prefer YouTube over Spotify and Anchor, please go there. Rogue Radio, all caps, on YouTube. Go ahead, check it out. Link is in the description. If you are at all interested in supporting Rogue Radio, if you like what we do, if you like what we are putting out for you and all the information that we give, we have a GoFundMe. Every donation that we do receive will be put towards missions and also the expansion of our YouTube channel and our Anchor. Missions is something that me and my husband believe in. We want to help people overseas, and seeing that there are many countries that do listen to this podcast, we want to be able to give back to you as well. And giving into missions and mission work and missionaries is something that we want to do. Our GoFundMe page will also be in the description below, so be sure to click and donate. Thank you very much. We love you very much. Okay, let's try this again. Let's do this. Okay. Dozens dead as Israel and Hamas escalate aerial bombardments. So, hostilities between Israel and Hamas escalated on Tuesday, raising the death toll to 2 days in 2 days to 30 Palestinians and 3 Israelis, with Israel carrying out multiple airstrikes in Gaza, the Islamist militant group firing rockets at Tel Aviv. A 13-story residential Gaza block collapsed after one of the several dozen airstrikes. Late into the night, Gazans reported their homes shaking and the sky lighting up with near-constant Israeli strikes. Israelis ran for shelters in communities more than 70 kilometers or 45 miles up the coast, and sounds of explosions as Israeli interceptor missiles streaked into the sky. Israel said hundreds of rockets had been fired by Palestinian militant groups. So Palestine started it. I don't really know what the beginning conflict was with this certain airstrike, but we all know that Palestine and Jerusalem have always been at odds. So let's just get it out there. I support Israel with 100% of my whole self. I love Israel. Israel is my heart. I am a Christian. I am a Bible-believing Christian. And that is one of the main reasons why I support Israel. Okay? 2, you should not have even messed with Israel. And 3, of course, I love anybody who is in Israel, who stands up for Israel, whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, whatever. If you live in Israel and you stand up for your country, I love that, okay? The problem that I have right now with this article and what's going on right now is that Palestine, who, let's just get it out there, is predominantly Muslim, all right? And I won't say that all Muslims are bad. Of course not. They're not. Not all of them are. Okay. I am saying Muslim extremists because Hamas did attack Jerusalem. Don't mess with Jerusalem. I'm sorry. That's God's city. Don't mess with Jerusalem. It's heavily armed. Why would you even decide to do that? I don't understand. But Muslim extremists, or any type of extremist and any type of religion, should just not be awful. I'm sorry. I say it so simply just because I see it in such a simple term. Like, no, this conflict between Palestine and Israel, I mean, I don't want it to happen, but of course, biblically it will, because it's been going on since biblical times. So, I will always stand with Israel. Whether or not you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, listen, like I said, if you love your country, if you love Israel, listen, I love you. I don't have any hate for Muslims. I don't have any hate for any type of religion. I just care that the people in Jerusalem are standing up for Jerusalem, okay? Because I know that God sees that. I know that God will see those people who defend their home, defend his home, you know? So, do I think that the Palestinian and Jerusalem conflict will ever end? No, I don't believe it, just because that's just how it's going to be until Jesus comes. It will never stop, unfortunately, because Palestine has always believed that Jerusalem was part of its territory. But we all know that if we look in the Bible, of course, it is part of Israel. Israel, like Jerusalem, is part of Israel. That's just how that is. But not a lot of people believe that. I understand that. But do I want people to coexist and love each other? Yeah, of course I do, but that's not reality. That this is going to happen. This is going to keep happening until Jesus comes. That's just how I believe. And Palestine won't back down. I understand that. Jerusalem will never back down. And this whole conflict is very important, and it is something that we have to pay attention to. And like I said, I will always stand with Israel. I will always stand with Jerusalem. I will stand with Israel. I support you guys. I hope one day you will become a listening country, because I do care about the Israeli people. I love them very much. Like I said, you are my heart. Spiritually, I just love you. I love the people there, and I will always support you. For Israel, the militants' targeting of Tel Aviv, its commercial capital, posted a new challenge in the confrontation of the Islamist Hamas group, regarded as a terrorist organization by Israel and the United States. Alright. The violence followed weeks of tension in Jerusalem during the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan, with clashes between Israeli police and Palestinian protesters in and around Al-Aqsa Mosque. If I mispronounced that, I'm very sorry. On the compound revered by Jews as Temple Mount. and by Muslims as the noble sanctuary. Alright. These escalated in recent days ahead of a now postponed court hearing in a case that could end with Palestinian families evicted from East Jerusalem homes claimed by Jewish settlers. Alright. There appeared no imminent end to the violence. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that militants would pay a very heavy price for the rockets which reached the outskirts of Jerusalem on Monday during a holiday in Israel commemorating the capture of East Jerusalem in 1967 war. We are at the height of a weighty campaign, Netanyahu said in televised remarks alongside his defense minister and military chief. Hamas and Islamic Jihad paid and will pay a heavy price for the belligerents. Their blood is forfeit. Hamas, seeing the opportunity to marginalize Palestinian President Mohammed Abbas, had to present itself as the guardians of Palestinians in Jerusalem, said it was up to Israel to make the first move. The militant group's leader, Ismail Haniyeh, that's how I'm going to say it. If I said it wrong, sorry, said in a televised speech that Israel had ignited fire in Jerusalem at Al-Aqsa, and the flames extended to Gaza, therefore it is responsible for the consequences. Haniyeh said that Qatar, Egypt, and United Nations, had been in contact urging calm, but Hamas's message to Israel was, if they want to escalate, the resistance is ready. If they want to stop, the resistance is ready. The White House said on Tuesday that Israel has a legitimate right to defend itself from rocket attacks, but applied pressure on Israel over the treatment of Palestinians, saying Jerusalem must be a place of coexistence. I have a lot to say on that, but I think I already said what I had to say. White House spokesperson Jen Psaki opened their daily news briefing with a statement about the situation, saying that President Joe Biden's primary focus was on de-escalation. The United States was delaying UN Security Council efforts to issue a public statement on escalating tensions because it could be harmful to behind-the-scenes efforts to end the violence, according to the diplomats and a source familiar with the U.S. strategy. Speaking on the condition of anonymity, the source said Washington is actively engaged on diplomacy behind the scenes with all the parties to achieve ceasefire. And was concerned that a council statement might be counterproductive at the moment. Israel said it had sent 80 jets to bomb Gaza and dispatched infantry and armor to reinforce the tanks already gathered on the border, evoking memories of the last Israeli ground incursion into Gaza to stop rocket attacks in 2014. More than 2,100 Gazans. Oh, do you hear Hopper, guys? Ooh. Please tell me you guys hear that. Aww. Hopper always sits on the bedroom windowsill and he starts talking to me for some reason. I think he just wants food, but anyway. More than 2,100 Gazans were killed in the 7-week war that followed, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, along with 73 Israelis, and thousands of homes in Gaza were razed. Plumes of black smoke. Video footage on Tuesday showed 3 plumes of black smoke rising from the Gaza block as it toppled over. Electricity in the surrounding area went out. Residents of the block and the surrounding area had been warned to evacuate the area around an hour before the airstrike, according to witnesses, and there were no reports of casualties 2 hours after it collapsed. People in other blocks reported that they received warnings from Israel to evacuate ahead of a possible attack. In Tel Aviv, air raid sirens and explosions were heard around the city. Palestinians ran for shelter, and diners streamed out of restaurants, while others flattened themselves on pavements as the siren sounded. The Israeli Airports Authority said it had halted takeoffs at Tel Aviv Airport to allow defense of the nation's skies, but later resumed them. Video broadcast on Israeli Channel 12 television showed interceptor missiles rising above the runways. The International Committee of the Red Cross urged all sides to step back and reminded them of the requirement in international law to try to avoid civilian casualties. The recent rockets in Israel and airstrikes in Gaza represent a dangerous escalation of the tensions and violence witnessed over the past days in Jerusalem, including its old city. Fabrizio Carboni, ICRC regional director the Middle East, said in a statement. Israel's Megan David Adom ambulance service said that a 50-year-old woman was killed when the rocket hit a building in the Tel Aviv suburb of Rishon LeZion. I don't know if I said that right. And that 2 women had been killed in the rocket strikes in the southern city of Ashkelon. But the Israeli military said many of the rockets fired from Gaza had fallen short and wounded Palestinians. Wow. And that Israel's Iron Dome air defenses had intercepted the bulk of those that made it across the border. Violence has been ticked up in the occupied West Bank. Israeli troops shot dead a Palestinian and injured another on Tuesday after they shot towards Israeli troops near the Palestinian city of Nablus. I'm really sorry. Israeli and Palestinian officials said. Alright. And that's the article on Israel. Okay, here's one. Let's see here. Space Force Unit CO relieved of duty for criticizing Marxism. Space Force, the first of new U.S. military service since the creation of the Air Force in 1947, now has some 20 members stationed at Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base in its first foreign deployment. Alright. The Biden administration is facing pushback after firing a U.S. Space Force guardian for speaking out against Marxism. Oh my god. On Sunday, Congressman Madison Cawthorn asserted the former unit commander is a patriot and should not have been removed. Cawthorn tweets, Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lawmere was removed for raising serious concerns regarding Marxist ideologies. He's a patriot and should not have been removed from his post. Rightfully so, honestly. I don't think anybody should be fired just because they express their opinion about things. Like, Marxism should not be a part of the American government anyways. That's just chaos. Matthew Lemire, who is also best-selling author, was terminated after comments he made in a recent podcast while speaking on information operation. Lemire said, critical race theory is being pushed on U.S. institutions and is dividing Americans. Okay, now you got me fired up. Listen, critical race theory should not even be a thing. I don't understand how this has been created. I do, actually, which is the sad thing. I wish I didn't know. But ever since the George Floyd shooting, okay, I have my opinions on it, but no, I don't believe the guy should have died, okay? I'm just putting it out there. I'm letting it go. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? Listen. Critical race theory, if you guys don't understand what this is, it's basically telling every white child, every white teenager, every white person that they are born racist just because of the color of their skin. And that is very demonic to me. I don't want to put my child in a school where they have to learn that they are racist from birth. No, they are not. Racism is taught. And this critical race theory class that is now trying to be pushed into the curriculum of every school in America is a racist class. You're ingraining in children, oh, well, I'm racist, I'm privileged, I'm this, I'm that. Not every white person is privileged, not every white person is racist, okay? There are black people that are racist. There are Mexican people that are racist, okay? I just, read an article about a Hispanic 15-year-old boy that decided to attack and try to stab an autistic white child. Okay? I don't like that. People don't understand that racism comes in all colors, forms, and creeds, okay? It is how we have been raised. It is how we have grown up. It is how we've been influenced by our family and the people around us and the environment that we live in. It's all part of how racism is formed, okay? It all depends on the person's heart. Their condition of their heart is way more important than the color of their skin. And if we don't know this in 2021, there is no hope for us. There is no hope for the human race when it comes to racism. If you're just going to tell every white person that they are racist and that they have to apologize for the bloodline that may or may not have owned slaves, get a helmet, put it on your head, and just keep walking, because that's not going to happen, okay? The fact that we have somehow gone backwards in this futuristic time, okay, is baffling to me. We have gone backwards. People, I know there are teenagers now that are starting to speak out, white, black, every color, okay, that think that, hey, every white person is racist. I see it on TikTok all of the time. Like, hey, you need to apologize because you're white. No, we don't. Okay? I'm a white woman. Okay? I don't know where my ancestry lies. I never actually tried to figure it out. But guess what? I know my family history, and every one of them has been dirt poor hillbillies. Okay? Whether or not they have been racist, okay, listen, it doesn't matter because I'm not. The fact that there are people out there that want me to apologize for being white is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I cannot control the pigment in my skin. If you want to hate me for it, go ahead, do it. But I will not apologize for being white. I will not apologize for something that I cannot control. Do you understand that? And the fact that there are people out there trying to push critical race theory, which says, hey, yeah, white children will always be racist. No, absolutely not. Children don't know what racism is. They only learn it from their parents, or from the people around them, or like the environment that they are in. It is a learned behavior, just like molestation is, just like murder is. It is a learned behavior. It's not something that you can be born with. Now, I do believe in generational curses, which is a whole different thing, okay? But what I'm saying is, people have the power not to be racist. You can choose whether or not to be racist. You are not born with a gene or some sort of chromosome. White people are not born with a DNA to be racist. They will never be racist unless they have decided to learn to be racist. Okay? It is not biologically proven that any white person is born racist. Okay? It's ridiculous and it's stupid. And the fact that they want to push this curriculum and letting white children know that they are racist, do you honestly think that that is actually going to benefit them? Seriously, listen to me. Do you honestly think that that is going to benefit them? Okay? Not only do kids have to deal with being bullied every day, and I'm saying kids in general, okay? White kids included, okay? Children are being bullied. They're being beaten up. They have problems at home, okay? Maybe their father and mother have divorced. Now they have to live in two separate homes. Maybe their parents died and they have to live with their grandparents. Or maybe they just have a foster family or an adopted family. Do you realize how much children go through on a daily basis, whether or not they're in school? Children go through a whole lot more than adults do. I believe that, okay? I just do. Children perceive so much more than adults do. And the fact that you are pushing something so adult and so racist and ingraining it in their brain, that is just going to hurt them more. Do you understand that? Critical race theory is evil. It's wrong. To say that any shade of skin is a racist race, it's awful, yes, okay? In history, whites have been assholes, okay? I'll admit that. But don't come to me saying that I was an asshole when, hey, I wasn't there back in the day. I wasn't lynching people. I wasn't lynching black people, okay? You're not gonna hear and apologize. You're not gonna hear me apologize for something that happened in the past that I cannot control because I wasn't born in that era. Am I ashamed that white people have done that? Of course. I hate slavery. I hate when people have to fight for their own lives. I hate that. America should not be like that. I hate slavery. I hate what white people have done. Of course. But guess what? We cannot harbor that hate. We cannot hold that grudge forever. Do you understand? We cannot hold that grudge up to now. It's 2021. If we cannot learn to forgive and forget, there is no hope. There is always going to be chaos. There is always going to be racism. If there is a way for you guys to forgive and forget what has gone on in the past, do it. Okay? Because the past will not help us in the future. It won't. It's like holding on to a past hurt. Like if someone did you wrong, you're holding on to that past hurt, it only hurts you. It only hurts you. So everybody that is so bent up out of shape because they all think that white people are racist, listen, we're not all bad. Okay? How about you sit and talk to somebody from a different race? How about you sit and talk to somebody like that? We are meant to be a melting pot. This is what I learned back in the 90s when I was a kid. America was supposed to be a melting pot. Diverse. Everybody from every walk of life, every race, every color, every country was supposed to be welcomed. Okay? And yes, racism did exist. And I still think it will exist. Up until, the world ends. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. But listen, it just upsets me that I'm labeled a racist woman because I am white. I have never said anything derogatory to any black person. And I know that that is not enough for some people who are listening, and that is fine. But I will defend myself and I will stand for myself. I am a white woman. All right. I hate racism in any form at all. I hate it with a burning passion. But the moment you say that I am racist, please sit down. Because you do not know me. You don't know my heart, you don't know my mind, and you do not know my character. And you will not smear racist. You will not paint me with that brush. You will not. I will not let you. Because if I don't stand for myself, I lose myself. I will not be passive in this area of my life. I will not be passive when it comes to somebody saying you're racist because you're white. Absolutely not. I will strike down that statement as fast as it comes out of somebody's mouth. I am not a racist. And a whole lot of other white people aren't. It just depends on how they've been raised, like I said. So you better think before you start painting people with that racist brush. You don't do that. Let's get back to the article. What I found useful, not just in the military service member, but also to every American, whether they're an attorney, wearing a uniform, or a stay-at-home patient, or a school teacher, anyone or everyone needs to be properly educated on what critical race theory is, he stated. It shows roots in Marxism, which most people don't understand. The police commissioner of the New York Police Department also weighed in by suggesting Lieutenant Stephen Whiting should be investigated for removing the award-winning author over his comments. Oh, okay. Oh, that's a short article. But, listen. I'll say it again. Do not judge people by the color of their skin. Do not automatically hate people because of they're a different color than you. The way I see it, we are all God's children. We are all fearfully and wonderfully made. I believe so many different things in the Bible. Like, I believe that the 12 disciples weren't just all of one color, of one race. I believe that they were all colors to show the diversity that Jesus wanted in his people that followed him. Okay? Let's just talk about that for a minute. Sorry. Let's just talk about that for a minute. Peter had anger issues. Alright? Matthew was very meticulous, very picky. All right? Those 2 disciples followed Jesus without any problem. They loved each other like brothers. Why can't we do that? Why can't we take the 12 disciples example and love each other? Okay? We are all God's children. We are all a creation. We're all meant to do something. We're all meant to be a royal priesthood. We are all meant to be alive on this earth. And what you do with that life is very, very crucial and important. Okay? Make sure that you're standing up for the right things. Make sure that you're saying and speaking up for the right things. This man, I applaud him. I really hope and pray that he does get a better job. I pray that he goes back into the military. I honestly pray that he's able to keep talking and somehow he's lifted up. I speak a better job over this guy. I speak life into that. Because nobody should be fired over an opinion, for one. An opinion is something so dumb to get angry over. You honestly think that everybody's going to have the same opinion as you? No. I have many opinions that I do express on this podcast sometimes. Alright? I will always express my opinion on my podcast. I will always express myself. That's the reason why I made this podcast, is to express myself. And if anybody has a problem with that, they don't have to listen. You don't have to listen to me. Just like you don't have to listen to this man who decided he's against Marxism. I'm against Marxism. Good Lord. Why would anybody want to be for it? Anyway, we should not be getting angry over the smallest things about each other. This is a hate problem. This goes farther than race. This becomes a heart and hatred problem. You have harbored hate so much to the point where you hate when someone blinks in your direction nowadays. Like, I'm not trying to call out anybody. This is just how I talk. Nowadays, everybody is so offended if you're a Trump supporter, or if you're a Democrat, or if you're a Republican, or if you're against abortion. Listen, everybody's going to have a different opinion than you. Everybody's going to have something different. That's what makes us beautiful. But the thing is that everybody's getting bent out of shape because there's white people out there that want to express themselves just as much as any other race. That doesn't make them racist. You shouldn't be putting You shouldn't be putting critical race theory in schools, teaching children that they're racist because they're white. That's evil. Children don't know what racism is until it's taught to them. So how about you give the children a chance? And give white people a chance. Seriously. Anyway, let's get on to the next story before I start preaching, so... Alright, this one is about the border again, so let's talk about it. Texas congressman decrees Biden administration manhandling of border crisis. As far as I know, they haven't touched it. They just want everybody to climb over the wall and continue sex trafficking and drug cartels, but, you know. In a congressional session on Friday, Representative Louis Gohmert, Republican Texas, criticized the Biden administration over the border crisis, calling it a national problem beneficial to drug cartels in Mexico. Like I said, he reports when drug cartels make a trade-off agreement with immigrants They essentially are helping them to get into the country with the promise that these same immigrants will then move drugs through the states, such as fentanyl, which is killing U.S. citizens at an alarming rate. Gomert said the administration plans on adding only 18 miles to the border wall, which would move more than 1,000 miles still unprotected. That's ridiculous. Gomert addresses the administration's approach to the border crisis, stating the answer has not been to secure the border. The answer from the administration has been to say the border is secure when anybody with eyes to see or ears to hear knows that's not true. Wow, he quoted the Bible on that one. Okay, bro. Anybody who has an ear, let him hear. Alright. Seekers from Colombia walk through... Oh, that's the description of the picture. Alright. The representative's remarks come as Kamala Harris faces mounting criticism for not having visited the border since being appointed as the administrator's border czar. Why is it a czar? I've said this before. Why you gotta call her a czar? That's a Russian, that's a Russian term, okay? I don't like that. We're in America, and I'm sorry for anybody who's Russian. Trust me. It just doesn't sound right to me. That's all. And honestly, Kamala Harris is too busy playing with buses trying to make it more eco-friendly, which will honestly cost a whole lot more than protecting the border. So, she's just trying to waste money. That's just what she does. She's stupid and hilarious and really, really dumb. I just don't understand her. I really don't. Honestly, I believe that Kamala Harris and Biden are part of the whole drug cartel and sex trafficking thing. That's a big conspiracy. I honestly know people will think that, but that's how I believe it. They're just part of it. They don't want to do anything because they're a part of it. And honestly, that goes with everything. If you are not fighting against something, then you are probably for it. You know? Like, if I don't fight for me as a person, then I'm for my own destruction. Do you understand that? If I don't stand up for myself, like I said, I lose myself. If people in office are not standing up for America, we're gonna lose it. Anyway, she has continued to justify her decision to avoid the border by claiming the administration needs to focus on the so-called root causes of immigration instead. Like I said before, the root causes are very simple. Their economy is bad. Drug cartels, sex trafficking, all of that. Get to the border, Kamala. Oh my goodness. Harris will be making an official visit to Mexico and Guatemala in June. But many Republicans argue she has already failed by not visiting the border. Yeah, of course. Ted Cruz beat you to it. And you know what? He's getting awesome badass points for me. Like, how in the world did he become so awesome? Ted Cruz, I know that you're probably not listening, but listen, one of these days you probably will. I don't know. You're awesome. Keep going. You're much better than Kamala. Listen, I'm sorry for all of the cussing. I do my best not to cuss on my podcast anymore. I just got really passionate in the last story and the story before that, so forgive me for that. I think that warrants a good break, don't you? You want to know how I make some unique podcasts? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. For one, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, and they're easy to use. Anchor will distribute your podcast for free so that it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download your free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's really fun. Come and join the Renegade family, all right? Alright, next up is world news. If you hear any sizzling, it's because I'm cooking. So, let's see here. British Army killed innocent civilians in Belfast in 1971. Inquiry. Okay, Belfast. British soldiers unjustifiably shot or used disproportionate force in the deaths of 9 of the 10 innocent people killed in a 1971 incident in Belfast that sparked an upsurge of violence during Northern Ireland's Troubles, a judge-led inquiry found. A Catholic priest and a mother of 8 who served soldiers' tea were among the victims in an event Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney described into Tuesdays as one of the most tragic days of Northern Ireland's 3 decades of bloodshed. Judge Keegan delivered her findings to applause from families of the victims shortly after the British government announced it would introduce legislation to give greater protection to former soldiers who served in the Northern Ireland plans Dublin and many in Belfast fiercely oppose. Let's see here. All of the deceased were entirely innocent of any wrongdoing on the day in question, Keegan, the coroner for the case, concluded. Let's see. The British government's minister in Northern Ireland, Brandon Lewis, said he would carefully consider the findings, but it was clear that those who died were entirely innocent of wrongdoing. The victims' grief has been compounded by the long and difficult process of waiting for answers for so many years, Lewis said in a statement. So now these victims from 1971 are starting to get justice. I feel that's what's happening. They're starting to figure out that these victims weren't at fault. The deaths over a 3-day period of disorder in the Ballymurphy area of Belfast, a sprawling housing estate of Catholics who opposed British rule, occurred in the days after the introduction of the internment without trial for suspected militants triggered disorder in the streets. Father Hugh Mullen, a 38-year-old priest who died, was helping an injured man and waving a white object before he was shot twice in the back, the inquiry found. Our brother was killed by the British Army, and then they lied about it to cover up their injustice. Mullen's brother, Patsy, told a news conference. After 50 years, the truth we always knew has finally been told. There was not enough evidence to say whether the army were responsible for the death of the victims, John James McCurr, who was indiscriminately shot going to and from work. However, Judge Keegan said it was shocking that the state did not carry out a proper investigation into the killing. Questions also remain unanswered about the identity of the soldiers who shot many of the victims, the judge added. No one has been charged or convicted in the connection with any of the killings. The inquest was a fact-finding exercise and not a criminal trial. The police have never, to this day, investigated the deaths of our loved ones, said John Taggart, the son of those killed. No one should be above the law. Exactly. Some 3,600 people were killed in the sectarian confrontation between Irish nationalists, militants, pro-British loyalists, parliamentaries, and British military that largely came to an end after a 1998 peace agreement. Okay, this one's for Russia. 9 killed, many wounded in Russian school shooting. This was on May 11th, 2021. Moscow, 9 people, including 7 children, were killed on Tuesday, and many were badly wounded after a lone gunman opened fire in a school in the Russian city of Kazan. Local authorities said, prompting a Kremlin call for tighter gun control. 2 children could be seen leaping from the 3rd floor from the 4-story school number 175 to escape the gunshots as it rang out. In a video filmed by an onlooker that was circulated by Russia RIA news agency. We heard gunshots, sounds of explosions, and at the beginning of the second lesson. All the teachers locked the children in the classrooms. The shooting was in the 3rd floor, said one teacher, quoted by Tatar Inform, a local media outlet. Calling the attack a tragedy for the country, Rustam Minikhanov, the head of the wider Tatarstan, yes, okay, said there was no evidence that anyone else had been involved. We have lost 7 children, 4 boys and 3 girls. We also lost a teacher, and we lost 1 more female staff worker, he said in a video address. The terrorist has been arrested. He's a 19-year-old who was officially registered as a gun owner. He said the victims were in the 8th year of school, which in Russia would make them around 14 to 15 years old. Russia's investigative committee, which investigates major crimes, said in a statement it had opened a criminal case into the shooting and that the identity of the detained attacker had been established. Reuters could not immediately contact a lawyer for the suspect who was named in Russian media but whose identity was not officially disclosed, standard practice in Russia until a suspect has been formally charged. Footage on social media showed a young man being pinned to the ground outside the school by police officers. City State later broadcast a separate video showing what it said was the suspect, a young man stripped to the waist and under restraint, being questioned by investigators. He could be heard saying that a monster had awoken in him, oh Lord, that he had realized he was a god and had begun to hate everyone. Oh Lord, no. He needs to go into therapy or maybe an exorcist, whichever one. The incident was Russia's deadliest school shooting since 2018, when a student at a college in Russian-annexed Crimea killed 20 people before turning the gun on himself. Putin orders review of gun laws. The social media account called God, which Russia's media said belonged to the suspect, was blocked by the Telegram messaging service, citing the rules prohibiting that it described as calls to violence. The account created before the shooting contained posts in which a young masked and bespeculated man described himself as a god and said that he planned to kill a huge number of people and himself. Reuters could not independently confirm whether the account belonged to the detained suspect. Minikhanov, the regional leader, said 18 children were in the hospital with a range of injuries, including gunshot wounds and broken and fractured bones. There are 3 adults with gunshot wounds were also in the hospital, he said, saying doctors were going to do all they could to save the lives of the wounded. Footage showed a corridor inside the school strewn with debris, including smashed glass and broken doors. Another still image showed a body on the floor and blood-stained classroom. Wow. Russia has strict restrictions on civilian firearm ownership, but some categories of guns are available for purchase for hunting, self-defense, or sport. Once would-be owners have passed tests and met other requirements. Let's see here. President Vladimir Putin had ordered the head of the National Guard to draw up tighter gun regulations, the Kremlin said. The guards would urgently look into the status of weapons that can be registered for hunting in Russia but are considered assault weapons elsewhere. The suspect had been issued a permit for a Hastan Escort PS shotgun in April 28th. Alexander Kihinstein, a lawmaker in the lower House of Parliament, wrote in a social media post. He gave no further details on Reuters was not able to confirm this independently. I'm really sorry. Kazan is the capital of the Muslim-majority region of Tatarstan and located around 450 miles east of Moscow. Do you guys hear Hopper? He's saying hello to all the renegades. Anyway, this is on Myannmar, so looks like Hopper's gonna help too, so. Let's see. Myanmar marks 100 days of junta rule with protests and strikes. Protesters rallied in towns and cities around Myanmar on Tuesday to denounce its military rulers 100 days after the general's overthrow of an elected government pitched the country into the biggest crisis in decades.
Plus Ultra!
Demonstrators took part in marches, motorcycle convoys, and flash protests to evade security forces, some marking three-finger gestures of defiance, and anti-coup groups renewed calls for the toppling of a junta that has been condemned around the world for killing hundreds of civilians. The junta has struggled to govern Myanmar since seizing power on February 1st. Protests and strikes and civil disobedience campaigns have crippled businesses and the bureaucracy in an overwhelming public rejection of the return of the military rule. Protesters in the biggest city, Yangon, carried a banner saying Yangon strikes for complete removal of the enemy, while demonstrators in Pakant and Kachin state marched chanting the revolution must prevail. Demonstrators in Pakant...
No!
What? It's okay. It's okay. The audience will love it anyways. It's fine. What is this? Brie Larson reportedly cast as Luke Sky.
No!
No! How dare you, Brie? Brie Larson! No!
I couldn't do any part except that.
Breaking news! Brie Larson reportedly cast as Luke Skywalker's wife. No! No!
No.
I'm sorry for the interruption, but no! No! Jesus. Demonstrators in Pakant, the Sangyeon region is okay. Region and elsewhere held signs in support of a national unity government, NUG, an anti-junta coalition that has declared itself Myanmar's legitimate authority. Last week, the NUG announced the formation of the People's Defense Force. The NUG spokesperson, Dr. Sasa, said in a tweet he and other ministers of the parallel government would meet with the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Tuesday to discuss how the United States and its allies can work together to end the reign of terror. He did not elaborate on the meeting, so he didn't give any details on the meeting. The U.S. State Department did not immediately respond to a request for confirmation of the meeting. The military arrested elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi hours before the coup. It said its takeover was to project Myanmar's fledgling democracy after a November election that it said was marred by fraud. Suu Kyi's party says its landslide win was legitimate. International crimes. In a statement on Tuesday, the NUG said rank and file members of the military should recognize that they were responsible for committing international crimes. It is time to answer the question clearly whether you will stand on the side of human rights and fairness, or you will continue to violate human rights by committing violence and then face the international court, it said. Despite the imposition of limited economic sanctions by the United States, the European Union, and others, the junta has shown no sign of compromise. It has the tacit support of neighboring China, of course it does, a major investor and a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Tuesday's protest took place amid sporadic violence in the country that has included deadly attacks on military-appointed administrators and weeks of small explosions involving homemade bombs, which the junta says is the work of the ousted government. The NUG has said the military has orchestrated such attacks as a pretext for its crackdown. In this nightly news bulletin, state-run MRTV said 2 members of the security forces were killed and 3 others wounded on Monday evening on the attack by terrorists in the Sangying region. A group calling itself I don't even know how to say this, but I'm just guessing, okay? Sagying People Defense Force, in a statement earlier Tuesday, claimed responsibility for an attack on security personnel around the same time in the same area, which it said killed 3 people. News reporting the information flow inside Myanmar has been severely impacted since the coup, the restrictions on the internet access, a ban on foreign broadcasts, and some news organizations ordered to close, accused by authorities of inciting rebellion. Security forces have killed 781 people since the coup. Oh my god. And including 52 children, and 3,843 people are in detention, according to the Association for Political Prisoners Monitoring Group, whose figures are being used by the United Nations. I will never understand why a country will kill its own people. There is no good excuse. No good excuse at all. The UN human rights body said on Tuesday the military has been showing no let-up in its efforts to consolidate power, and its human rights violations went far beyond killings. And it's clear that there needs to be a greater international involvement to prevent the human rights situation in Myanmar from deteriorating further, said Rupert Colville, spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. If you liked what you heard, applaud it, add it to your playlist, or like it and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the trenches next time. Bye-bye.